Greetings, nature nerds, and welcome back to Ask an Ecologist. My name is Suzanne Simpson, and I'm an ecologist with Bayou Land Conservancy in Houston, Texas. It's hard for me to believe that we're entering month 4 at BLC working from home. We started Ask an Ecologist back in March as a way to engage with you guys while we couldn't do our usual in-person events. And I think we only expected it to last maybe a couple weeks. And here we are into month 4. I hope you're still enjoying it. I'm still enjoying it. And as long as we keep getting questions from you and there are topics to talk about, we're going to keep doing this. So I'm back with you here on the 4th of July weekend. And let's get into some of your questions that you submitted this week. So we have 2 questions that come from John Stacy. And the first one is, how come mockingbirds imitate other birds? They aren't predators trying to trick them. What's the evolutionary point? So what John is getting at is, everything that an animal does has some kind of an energy cost, or ostensibly serves some sort of evolutionary purpose or advantage to the animal. Otherwise, they wouldn't have evolved to have that characteristic. And John is asking, why do mockingbirds mock other birds if they're not trying to prey upon them or lure them somewhere? So like all good questions, John, the answer is we don't really know for sure. But we'll go over some of the reasons why mockingbirds might be mocking other songbirds. So for a while, it was thought that mockingbirds exhibited this behavior because they were trying to keep other birds out of their territory. So when birds call every morning, that's their roll call, where they're saying, hey, I'm still here. Are you still here? And so if a cardinal is singing in the morning and they hear another cardinal, that's really a mockingbird, singing back at them, the thought might be that the cardinal's like, well, I don't want to go over there because that territory is already taken. This theory hasn't been studied as extensively as I think it could be. But the early results show that songbirds don't really seem to modify their behavior whenever a mockingbird mocks their call. So it's not really clear that they are defending their territory more effectively by having this mocking technique. So that one still has a question mark by it as to why. I'll try to do it. There it is. Wow. As to why they do that. Another thought has been that a more robust singing repository makes a male more attractive to a female. So a male that has a lot of calls in its arsenals, might even be able to imitate car alarms, it imitates songbirds, has all different kinds of sounds, is perhaps an older, wiser male that would make a better mate for females. And so that large song arsenal is an attractive quality to potential mates. And there was a study done in the Edwards Plateau region of Texas that bore this out somewhat and found that males that had a large song arsenal had the best territories and the best access to resources. So that could be another clue as to why mockingbirds mock other birds and other sounds. Blue jays also exhibit somewhat of a mocking characteristic in that they'll mock the screams of hawk calls of birds of prey. And that one seems to have a little bit more of an obvious intent behind it, where they're either mocking those raptor calls to scare away their rivals, or they're being a little more altruistic and mocking that raptor call to warn their brethren that there's a hawk nearby. So there are a lot of birds that do different kinds of mocking behavior, but of course our state bird, the mockingbird, is one of the most well-known. And I think in order to solve why they do this behavior, we're going to have to keep asking questions and keep studying these birds. So good question. Best questions don't have an obvious answer. John's next question was, I've seen a lot of turtles wandering around local ponds. What's up? Are they looking for love? Are they looking for a new home? Well, a little bit of both. We are in the thick of pond turtle mating season right now. And that means that turtles are very active. They're looking for a connection, and they're looking for a safe place to build their nest. And that means they're going outside of their normal territorial boundaries to find both of those things. So it would not be uncommon for you to see turtles in new locations or to see new turtles where you haven't seen them before. If you see a turtle crossing the road, don't be afraid, if it's safe to do so, to help them cross to where they're going. Always point them in the direction that they are trying to cross. If you try to turn them around on the other side of the street, they are just going to try and do it again. So if you see a turtle crossing the road and it's safe to help them out, you can hold them by the back end of their carapace, their shell, and make sure that your body is a good distance away from them, and you can safely walk them across the road. One of the only defense mechanisms that turtles have whenever they're freaked out is to pee. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden you are standing in a small puddle of turtle pee. But I consider that an honor, and it's a pleasure to help a turtle across the road while they're in the midst of their mating season especially. So that's why you're seeing more turtles on the move. All right, next question. A very clever 7-year-old named Madeline asked me, how do spiders make webs? Well, that is a very good question, Madeline. Spiders make webs from their own silk that they produce inside their body, and they're able to make these webs using special organs that they have called spinnerets. So the silk comes out of the spider initially in a liquid form, but it dries really, really quickly in the air. And spiders can make up to 7 different types of silk for different purposes. And some spiders will even eat their webs when they're done using them in order to replenish their silk supply. And spider silk has been studied for many, many years because it's a fascinating material. It's stronger than steel, but it is much more flexible. And so we humans have been trying to recreate spider silk to see if we can use it in materials that we use every day. There are companies that are operating right now trying to figure out if they can implement spider silk in their materials. So it'll be interesting to see in the coming years, in the coming decades, if we start to use materials that are made from spider silk or something similar to spider silk. So, good question. All right, those are your questions for the week. I'm going to take a sip of my sparkling water before we talk about fireworks on the 4th of July. All right, so I would be remiss on this 4th of July weekend if I didn't talk a little bit about fireworks and their effects on wildlife. There is no secret that humans love fireworks, but we are about the only animal in the animal kingdom that does. Fireworks on the 4th of July is usually a day of utter chaos. From our pets, I know my dog is terrified of fireworks, but also fireworks can have an impact on our backyard critters. Birds will sometimes abandon their nests out of fear. It can disorient mammals and separate them from their young. Both wildlife rehabilitators and animal rescues report an uptick in their intakes right after the 4th of July. Additionally, a recent NOAA study found that particulate matter reaches its peak on the 4th of July. So particulate matter is coming from all of the materials that are made out of fireworks. And also a lot of fireworks are made out of chemicals that are not great to have in our air. So scientists have been working to invent more eco-friendly fireworks that don't use those nasty chemicals that clog up our air. If you're going to partake in fireworks this 4th of July, my recommendation would be to just have one space where you're shooting them off. That way the cleanup is a lot easier. You're not shooting them off from every which way. And as soon as you shoot them off, it's important to collect the debris right away so that it doesn't continue to blow the charcoal and the fumes in the air, and dispose of it properly. Depending on where you live, there will be different regulations on how you should dispose of your fireworks. But just keep that in mind if you're taking part in fireworks this 4th of July. Keep an extra eye on your pets because they may need some extra support this weekend. And I will see you for our next episode of Ask an Ecologist. Remember that you can submit your questions to info@bayouland.org. You can send us a Facebook message, and you can see all episodes of Ask an Ecologist, not just on our Facebook page, but also on Bayou Land Conservancy's YouTube page. So check that out. I'm Suzanne Simpson. I will see you next week. Thank you for joining me. I had fun.